Hey, hi Shreya, good morning to you.
Thank you so much. Good morning.
Thank you for joining us today for this project on accounting to FP&A. So, thank you so much for giving your time from your busy schedule.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. Before we get into the survey questions and the detailed questionnaire, could you please give a little bit about your background? What have you been doing? What have been your experiences in the last few years so that
Yeah,
it
sure.
helps our listeners, viewers get some context?
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I'm a chartered accountant and a CIMA CGMA. I have started my career in accounting. I was there for a year, obviously with our internship and the accounting for a year. At that point, I think I kind of felt like, okay, no, accounting is not something that I really want to do. And that's where I made my first move to finance. So that was just like within 13 months of clearing my chartered accountancy. And post that, I've always been in finance. I have around 10 years of experience in finance right now. Uh, Doing in from a controlling perspective. First I started with financial controlling, then I moved to FP&A, and currently I'm just in FP&A. I'm working currently in London in the Arena Racing Company. I work as the group FP&A manager here. I look after around 24 entities. It's a rewarding job. It's an interesting job. Every day is an adventure. And yeah, look forward to doing more of FP&A work.
Thank you so much for that introduction. Now you mentioned you moved from controller to FP&A roles in the last few years. So
Yep.
could you talk about some of the challenges you faced or you think people could face while going through that transition?
Yeah. So uh, first of all, we need to understand that accounting and FP&A, or controlling and FP&A, are two different profiles, which I think initially in the initial years, not many of them really understand. Kind of bring everybody, all of this into a bigger bracket of finance, which is not really true. Because accounting is more of, why do we call accounting financial reporting? Is because you're reporting something, everything is done, you're doing the aftermath, okay? And finance or FP&A is more of like, in between these, it's like it's before and it's after, it's in the past or it's in the future, it's not the one which is already done. So I think the first differentiation obviously was understanding as a candidate or as a person that okay, these things are two different things. And obviously, from coming from an accounting background, you're always in that motion of okay, this is debit and credit, this is the number that's supposed to be, this is the ratios, this doesn't look good, that doesn't look good. And I think when you know that something is not looking good and you could have done something, and that's where you get that click that okay, I think if I was in FP&A or in finance, I could have done better. And that's where you think okay, let's go into finance. But yeah, the challenges over there are, as our title suggests, chartered accountancy, people always associate us with accounts. So it's quite difficult for us to break that barrier and get an interview itself for a finance role. I'm sure you might have heard a lot of people of not really getting into finance roles because first they don't know about finance, second they're not able to crack the interviews. I think those are the major challenges. I think even cracking of interviews, right, is secondary. You yourself understanding the difference and knowing that accounting and finance are two different things, and finance is what I want, and getting that clarity is more important. I think that is the bigger challenge here, because everyone wants to get into finance but they really don't know what finance is. So I think breaking that barrier makes things more easier, because you go with a mindset but your interviews are not getting, it's not cracking or anything is not happening, is because you don't have enough of knowledge about FP&A.
Right. So what I can take away is the understanding conceptual clarity of the difference between accounting and finance FP&A is
Yes.
what is missing,
Yeah.
and which is probably one of the reasons folks are not able to get interviews or even well, if even if they're getting interviews, they're not able to clear it.
Yes, correct.
So, what has helped you overcome this? What is there anything that you would want to share personally which has helped you in this experience?
Yeah, definitely. Asif. See, I have been a strong believer that, uh, like, getting into big fours, getting into bigger companies, is always going to just isolate you into one role. If you're
Okay.
talking about, say, accounts, you're going to go into accounts, you're going to go into only audit. So I have started my career with all small companies, I've started up with all startups, and that's where I actually got the exposure of different fields. That's where I realized that, okay, finance is something that I want to do. And the challenges that came in the way were like, okay, I don't know a lot of things, which probably I did not pay much attention in CA. I
Mhm.
was very much concentrated on audit and FR and law. Yeah, SFM and costing were just like a part of it. But okay, then I should have paid more attention to it. And those were the challenges that I faced, and how I overcame them were, learning more. And this time, after completing CA, learning the same thing again is so different. You're actually learning and understanding it. Sometimes in that phase of CA, we are so engrossed in just passing the exam
Yeah,
that we just learn it for the sake of it. You don't know what it is used for. You don't know what is the different things that are it's actually impacting. So I think it was the relearn process that that helped me overcome and understand what FP&A is from accounting, and how finance is something that I wanted.
understood. So revisiting your finance subjects again with a
Yeah.
different perspective
Yeah.
versus when you were just studying for your exam, I think that helped you.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
How about, so we talked about challenges. How about skills? Were there any new skills you think you had to build, or and any particular skill that helped you from your controller experience? So we can talk about both. Any skills
Yep.
that are transferable that helped you move, and also any of the new skills that you had to build for this profile.
Yep. So, skills that are transferable. Definitely, there is so much of it that is transferable, because you cannot understand finance if you don't know accounts. This is very rare, and this is something that the HRs treasure as well. If you have good accounting background, you can get finance done real quick. So obviously, understanding why numbers are there where they are supposed to be, how is the revenue supposed to be accounted, and all of those things. So accountancy as a skill itself is definitely a transferable skill. Yes, there are so many skills that you can that are like, a prerequisite for the finance, and that is obviously you have to be good with numbers, which we are. That is fine. But how do you showcase that? So that would definitely be good Excel skills. And now, since you have got a lot of these data science and data analytics going around, so I think just another step further from Excel would be how to visualize the same data. And that could be even in the form of charts, pivot table, power pivot, all of those things, like an advanced version of Excel, which is beyond just H lookup, V lookup, and index match. And going one step further, obviously, is hardcore data visualization, which is Power BI or Tableau, or any sort of those visualization tools. And obviously, one step further would definitely be coding these things. That is, getting the raw data, mining the data, and getting it into this form. So predominantly, something that is really required as a part of your finance profile is definitely Excel and advanced Excel.
Understood. So you mentioned transferable skills as accounting. So accounting is something that you can bring into FP&A, and a lot of people don't realize that because they take it for granted that okay, this is a skill that I have, but they don't realize its importance, at least when they are transitioning. So that is a skill that is definitely transferable. And then you talked about Excel and visualization. So first step would be to master Excel, basic Excel and advanced Excel.
Yeah.
Then next step would be to visualize the data,
Yeah.
and then probably very advanced would be to learn codes like SQL,
Yeah.
R, Python. So in your experience, how important has been the third part, which is coding? Because that is a constant question: should finance be getting into coding, or is it something which is good to have?
Yeah, see, now again, now that completely depends on the company that you want to get into, or the profile, the specific job description that is there for the company. Because if you actually observe, right, most of the companies have a controlling team, which is like an accounting team. and they have an FP&A team which is looking after the finance. They also have a business intelligence team or a business analytics team who is
Yeah.
actually doing all of these things for you.
The data science team,
Yeah,
so data
yeah,
scientist.
correct. So if you know that there's a company that has this team already, and then you're trying to apply for it, then obviously this it's going to be a situation where they are going to do it for you. So
And
you should at least know what they are. See, you are supposed to be an intermediary in this case, where you're saying that, okay, listen, I need to have x plus y is equal to z. Can you please code this for me in any format, that any a visualization tool that the particular company uses? So yes, having knowledge of it is definitely important, but that
mhm.
knowledge could be as simple as knowing that, okay, this is possible and this is not possible. Like example, SQL. Okay, SQL has got, like, I can filter the data, I can classify the data, and I probably maybe not able to uh, dissect the data if the data has got multiple nodes or multiple starting points, one to one relationship, many to many relationship. All these things are something that we have learned in ISCA, but we never really realized. So if I think at the beginning it's more about having an understanding of these knowledge. And definitely, I personally feel like even if you do courses, right, if you don't use it in your daily life, it is a lost skill.
Yeah,
Till you use it, it is till you use it, I think it's still a lost skill. So more than investing much time in those particular skills, it is more about understanding what generally coding languages do. And once you get in, then probably you get that training or in your daily work life, and that's where you actually master that skill.
got it. So if I have to summarize it, it all depends on your role. So if your role requires it, you have to do it. If it doesn't, then limited exposure or the bare minimum, which is being able to frame the problem and then take it to somebody who's expert. They can
Yeah.
do the coding for you, and then you get it back, and then you check, okay, what they have done makes sense. Does it satisfy your requirement? And if not, then again go back and ask them to make changes.
Yes, correct.
Is what I understand. So it depends on your role and in that particular
Yeah.
organization. Thank you so much. Now we move to the next section of the survey, which is more or less based on interviews. So
Yeah.
things like how do we prepare for interviews? What are the things interviewer is looking for when they are hiring for FP&A? So let's start with uh, is there any process you would recommend or do you personally follow when you have to prepare for FP&A interviews, FP&A roles?
Yeah. So one definitely, one thing that I do follow is learn about the company before going to the interview, which is a given. Obviously, you're going to do that. But uh, if you're an accounting or finance professional, I think you should go a step further when you're learning about the company, and that would basically mean, understand the financials of the company. Now, I understand that not all of the financials are readily available, but
Yeah,
at least knowing a few things. Say, for example, if you're talking about a pharma company, so trying to understand, how is the company doing, how is the pharma industry doing,
yeah,
okay, and what are these key things that are very important in a pharma industry. So maybe it could be different ratios, whether the company is actually generally supposed to be a profitable company, because there could be a lot of companies that are not making profit in a particular sector, but they are really cash rich.
yeah.
There's a difference. So understanding those things, reading their balance sheet, reading their PNLs are very important, not just to understand how the company is doing, but also to understand what are the things that you need to look for when you go into the company. See, reading about a company from the company website, even the hiring manager is going to understand that you have spoken something from a sheet of paper that has, or website description. When you go into detail about the company and its financials, that kind of shows your interest in the company, your dedication, and that kind of puts a good impression on the hiring manager as well. So going in depth about the company, but from your perspective, that is finance or accounting perspective, is more important.
Understood. So you need to spend time understanding the company financials is what will help you prepare for the interviews.
Yes, definitely.
And if I have to ask you, any of your experiences giving FP&A interviews or taking FP&A interviews. So we are looking for experiences which may be good or bad, so we can learn from both. So any good experiences that you have had giving or taking FP&A interviews, or bad experiences that you want to share.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, so I'll tell you one obviously with giving an FPN interview when I was giving my FPN interview. So I had let me tell you the one which I did recently because that would be definitely the one I remember. So I had prepared a lot about this particular company because it's easy to get company financial data here in the UK. So just put on gov.uk and you get the data. So I looked at the financials. I looked at the numbers.
Mhm.
Um, and see the company obviously is into my current company is obviously into racing, so I don't know much about the racing space.
Mhm.
So all I could do was really understand from the financials. So I did look at a few things. I said, okay, this looks a little different. Why is there maybe less profit? Why are the numbers different? Why is the P&L looking good
Yeah.
and the balance sheet not?
Okay.
And I think it was a very I could say surprising experience for both parties because I really asked a lot of questions at that point, saying, because and this obviously is a thing. It doesn't mean that only the hiring manager has to ask you questions. You can also ask them
Yeah.
questions. So I did ask a lot of questions during my interview as well, and the questions that they asked me were very finance specific, which I personally believe I never saw it in India, where in India you have interviews which are very textual based. They ask what is this ratio, what is that
Yeah.
ratio, what is those kind of questions. But I think this was a very beautiful interview, understanding a lot of things in terms of finance, where you should ask questions like what are those, and this is something that I follow in my asking interview process as well, where I'm saying what are the 5 KPIs or what are the 5 things that you would see in in a balance sheet or in a P&L to tell me that this company is profitable or not,
Mhm.
correct? Or this company is something that you would invest or not.
Yeah.
So I personally feel that the quality of questions that a hiring manager asks tells a lot about the company as well,
Yeah.
correct? Obviously you are prepared, but you are in no obligation. You should never be that desperate to get into a company.
Yeah.
You have your own set of skills and you should leverage that. So I think that was one thing that I really liked about interviewing recently in few of the companies when I did it. It was just before joining this company that I'm currently in, where people really asked questions that mattered, and that kind of made my experience good, and I was confident enough to give more interviews and leverage my skills and see where is it that I really belong. And from a bad experience, let me tell you, there's a very and it's not a bad experience, it's an experience that I have learned from, is where I also observed that hiring managers most of the times take put you in certain boxes while interviewing. Okay,
Mhm.
so they'll just take your resume. Obviously the first question is, well, walk me through your resume, walk me through your process, walk me through your experiences, and you definitely tell a lot of things. And that's how hiring managers do, right? Whatever you say, they're going to okay, listen to it, and then pick one thing out of that and then continue.
Yeah.
So obviously you are going to you should be very careful on what you're telling. Speak only what you know of and don't lie. Don't exaggerate something that is not something that you have done and stuff. So I did speak about a few things, and one of the very interesting, a few of the things that I'm really proud of, where I've been like, I have met a lot of VCs, I've met a lot of investors for pitching for funds and stuff, and I'm very passionate about it, and I was very core and very strong on that. I remember one of these hiring managers who pointed out that thing and said that okay, so you know about VCs, you know about pitching and and stuff. So then he asked me a few more questions on that. Okay, you tell me this. So I did, and I honestly, sincerely spoke about it. But for some reason, the hiring manager was not ready to believe that I could go and pitch it to somebody. He says that that does not seem with your profile or with your job description that you have given, doesn't seem that you could have had that much of responsibilities in hand.
Mhm.
Okay, now it's kind of quite difficult to sometimes explain that if you're in a startup environment, and not just
Yeah.
startup environment, if you're in an FP&A profile, you are the
Yeah.
firefighter for the company. So accounting doesn't work, they come to you. Okay, controlling doesn't work, they come to you. There's something that is going wrong, the CFO is going to come to you, because you are the one who's got that entirety of the access of the past, present, and future of the company. So sometimes, I feel that our communication or our clarity or the way we speak or the way we portray ourselves also has to be equivalent to how the other person can or has the capability of taking it in. So I
Right.
think sometimes, because that puts your morale down, right? If I tell you that, really, you did that? Are you serious? That kind of puts your morale down. So that was a bad experience. Not a bad experience, but that's where I learned that maybe I needed to communicate it more efficiently, with
Mhm.
more complex words, which meant that or
Mhm.
gave them a more comprehensive description of what I did for in that particular role. And yeah, that was a learning experience. I wouldn't say a bad experience, a learning experience, where sometimes your morale can go down in the interview, which your heart rate goes
Yeah.
full, and then you need to control yourself, keep yourself balanced, keep a calm head, and explain it to them nicely.
So very interesting experiences. Just to summarize, I think first you mentioned about how did you prepare for the for your present role, which is into the company, which is into the sports and racing. So going through the website, going through the finances, and then you could relate and have questions ready when you went to the interview. I also feel uh, in FP&A roles, the quality of questions that you ask in an interview determines one of the key driver. I mean, drivers are for finances, but one of the key driver for interview success is the quality of questions you ask, because that shows a lot of things. Uh, it shows your thought process. It shows your research, the effort that you've put in. So I think that is something which is very important according to me as well. And then you mentioned about different interviewers. So when you typically interview for a mid-sized to big company, you go through different rounds, and there might be four different rounds, and each of the particular round is focused on some particular area, or that particular person is looking for some particular area. And when you can effectively communicate your experience and let that person pick what areas does he want to talk more about. So this is also something which I really recommend, is to find out what is what does the role require, and what is that person interaction with that role, what is the most important thing for that person in that role. Because if you will join that company and work with that person, what is that person requiring for you, and
Yeah,
maybe talk and base a build your conversation around that. So thank you
yeah,
so much for sharing these experiences. Now let's move to now the interview is over. Now you get into the FP&A role. So what should people do? Because the first few weeks, first few months are the most critical
yeah,
when you transition, and it can set you up for success, or it can break you, and it can, I mean, some people
yeah,
even go back to their accounting roles because they cannot uh, uh, transition this
yeah.
challenging phase. So are there any tips, are there any recommendations that you have for the first 30, 60, 90 days in a new FP&A role?
Yeah, sure. So, definitely, there are so many things that you need to do, but taking one day at a time is definitely the key. But so first thing, you once you get into the company, I think you should understand how the company works, irrespective. Now, this is something that is for all the roles. It's pretty general for all the roles. Understand what the company does. Understand your role in the company. See, for FP&A and finance roles, right? We need to understand that it does not just work vertically. What I mean by that is, you're not just working with your team, where you're just answering to your boss, your manager, and you have five people under you. That's not how
Right.
it works. FP&A is involved in the entirety of the company. So you will have to be, working with some other manager, some other trainee, some other person. So what does that mean? There are so many people. Okay. Now, of course, now if you're a chartered accountant, any professional for that matter, for some reason I feel like we are a little overachievers. We are quite young and we are getting to bigger roles. Okay. Now, what does that mean? Your people who are, junior to you or probably within in you might be someone who is very older as well. Now,
Yeah.
what happens with that is there is a lot of ego and experience, and there's a lot of those negative and positive things that happen, which you need to manage. So it is not just finance that you need to manage, you need to manage people also, irrespective, even if you are a finance apprentice to a
Mhm.
finance manager, financial analyst, CFO, whichever level you're working in,
Mhm.
you're working with a lot of people. So my personally, my 5 tips I can say, or 4 tips I think, let's see how
Mhm.
much does it go to, but the tips that I feel should be something that you need to do as a process for the first 90 days is: first, understand the company, meet your colleagues,
Yeah.
okay, irrespective of not just your branch, everything everywhere else. How much,
Yes.
spend some 5 to 10 minutes every day, maybe just a lunch catch up with your colleagues. Be clear in what you are discussing. Clarity and communication.
Mhm.
Be clear with what you're discussing, be clear with what your job responsibilities are, what you need to do. Communicate them very smoothly in correct apt words. Saying, say, for example, I am an FP&A manager. You are from XYZ department, say sales and marketing. I require this information. That's it. Like, I require this information. Can you please give it to me? And then you probably have to say, like, oh, it's over the budget. It looks too much. Use your words correctly. Like, you say, okay, looks a little off. Let us have a discussion. Let's see what can be done with this. So be clear, and communicate.
Mhm.
Understand, meet your colleagues, know the company, and plan your things around this, and then optimize or then start or go ahead. Don't take your decision at once. Don't make all these negative connotations about anybody. So communication and clarity, and understanding the company and meeting your colleagues. I think these 4 things should be the first priority in the first 90 days, because no one is really expecting you to bring out 10 reports on the first 90 days.
Got it. So,
Get
if I can quickly summarize, understanding the business is one, meeting different people in the organization which you are going to be your stakeholders. So,
Yeah,
your stakeholders is what the right word is. Then being clear and being crisp and clear in how the way you communicate is the third. What was the last one, if I missed any?
yeah. So it's being clear with what you want to do and then communicating it clearly as well.
Got it. Okay, so
Yeah,
be clear yourself and then being able to communicate it in a way that is easily understood and it's not coming across as you mentioned that you are policing
bossing
or
somebody. Yeah, yeah,
challenging this the especially if you're working with non-finance people.
yeah,
So thank you so much. I think that brings us to the end of the conversation. Before we let you go, there is one last question. So now that you work both in FP&A and audit, which one do you find better? And this is very subjective. It can be different for different people. And before we let you go, also let us know how people can reach out to you if they want to reach out for any questions.
yeah. Um, so I think, and nothing that because I am in this interview for talking
Yes.
about FP&A, but I would any day pick FP&A over any role, and that would personally be because you know uh, I think it's pretty filmy to tell this, but we all want to be superheroes, and I think FP&A as a role is a very superhero role because you have the ability to make the change before anything happens. Because once the year is over, it's all accounting and auditing. Okay, it's saying that, oh, this happened, oh, this what happened was wrong, this should have changed, should have, could have, would have is not something that I want to do.
Yeah.
I want to be the pioneer and the catalyst to make those changes happen, where I can say, if we do this, I think we'll move into success. So that is the only reason I think I would choose FP&A over any role any day.
Thanks. And any particular contact details you want to share or your LinkedIn profile, we can put in the description so that people have any questions, particularly from you, they can reach out.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you all can reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile. My name is Shreya Shanbhag. You will find me. I'm working in arena racing company, so it's in London. So I think that's the combination. My name is not a very common name, so you would find me maybe in the top three, four names.
Perfect. So we will include the links here so that people can reach out if they want to.
Definitely.
And thank you so much for joining me today. I think this conversation will go into the book and it will help a lot of people. So thank you so much for giving your time and your experiences for this book.
Thank you so much, Asif. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure talking to you and re-experiencing and remembering all my times from my internship. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.